Leader, third party.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The COVID-19 crisis exposed existential threats to our society and, of course, our economy. But as we plan our recovery from COVID-19, we remain extremely vulnerable to the economic and social crisis that can be brought on by a degrading climate. A few months ago, this government delayed indefinitely the next scheduled increase to the price of carbon. In the current economic context, this may be seen as a tough question, but it is now more than ever that we need to talk about the price signals that we will use to shape our recovery. Economists agree that consistent, scheduled increases to the price of carbon is essential to its effectiveness as a tool. When the government remains consistent in our policy to raise the incentive to decarbonize and innovate, it provides businesses with the certainty that they need to plan for their investments in moving to a clean economy. We need a clean recovery, and if we don't continue with progressive carbon pricing, we risk destroying the progress that we've created thus far and entering into a more carbon-intensive recovery. My question, through you, Honourable Speaker, is to the Minister of Finance. Will she provide the right signal for a clean recovery by telling us when her government will restore the scheduled carbon tax increase?
Minister of Finance. We seem to have a technical glitch. Minister of Finance. Perhaps we could come back. Minister of the Environment.
Thank you very much, Honourable Speaker, and thank you to the member for the question. British Columbia has the most robust carbon tax in North America. We have provided predictability to British Columbians and to industry by laying out in advance a schedule that maintains that leadership and that shows where we're going. But we also know that the carbon tax is not the only tool necessary to make advances in the face of the climate crisis. We have increased the climate action credit for British Columbians to help families deal with the cost and make the changes. We also have the Clean BC Industrial Incentive Program to do the same thing. We also have a suite of regulations, and we're investing well over $1 billion over a 4-year period to fight climate change. But Honourable Speaker, the member's right. We faced in March a COVID crisis. It doesn't mean we turn away from our commitment to climate action. If anything, it's inspired us to double down and ensure that Clean BC and climate action will be at the heart of our economic recovery. But I don't believe that it's responsible government in the face of an immediate crisis that affected every business and every person in every corner of British Columbia to move ahead without thinking about the impacts of not making an adjustment to our plan. We deferred the increase in the carbon tax for review by September 30th. That review will take place. It will take place in the context of our economic recovery plans, as well as the state of COVID. We recognize the climate emergency. We also recognize the COVID crisis. We believe it's possible to address both at the same time. That's exactly what we intend to do.
Leader, third party on a supplemental.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you to the Minister for the very thorough answer and for the answer. Sectoral targets, as enabled by last year's Climate Change Accountability Amendment Act, need to be set by March 2021. This is also an important tool. It assists industry and the public identify where emissions originate, what policies are working, and those that aren't. Transparent, data-driven sectoral targets can assist us in balancing our current emission rates and reductions that are necessary to meet our legislated targets. As we work to recover from a badly damaged economy with both an immediate and a long view, establishing sectoral targets will help us achieve the prosperous and clean future that British Columbians want. Mr. Speaker, my question is again to the Minister of Environment and Climate Change Strategy. Has the Minister asked his staff to use sectoral targets to ensure that our recovery strategy is in line with the emission reductions that we need to achieve Clean BC?
Minister of the Environment.
Thank you very much, Honourable Speaker, and thank you again to the member. We're very proud of the work we've done to create the Clean BC plan, and part of that was creating changes to the Climate Change Accountability Act, the interim emissions target, as well as the establishment and legislation of the responsibility to create sectoral targets. We did that in consultation with the Green Caucus, as the member well knows. We also consulted quite broadly in the creation of that new legislation. We are working hard to do the engagement necessary with environmental organizations, with industry, with British Columbians, with municipalities, with Indigenous people to ensure that we get the targets right and that we do it in a way that they can achieve their purpose. And their purpose is to provide certainty, to provide guideposts along the way to meeting our legislated targets, to provide a roadmap to get there. We have much engagement left to do, but we are on target to be setting those targets as required by legislation. We also are working very, very hard on ensuring that we have a broad-based set of recommendations for Cabinet consideration for specific items in our economic recovery plans that will provide jobs, that will provide equity, that will lift up communities and Indigenous people, that will support the economy of British Columbia and move us further along the pathway to meeting our emission reduction targets and entrenching Clean BC in the future of British Columbians.